Welcome to Flavored Text, an extension of the Max Level Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the Max Level Podcast on your podcast app of choice to hear a brand new episode every Monday morning at 5 a.m. Eastern. On today's episode of Flavored Text, the crew discusses the recent news surrounding SEGA and Judgment and whether they think the game should still be released in North America or not. Support us by clicking that subscribe button, hit the like, turn notifications on, and leave us a comment down below. So for Flavor Text this week, we have an interesting current topic, and Brian here, joined as always by Frank and Sean. Say hello.
Hey guys.
What's up, every peoples?
Every peoples. There you go. Recently this week, something major happened over in the country of Japan. Japanese actor Pierre Taki was arrested on cocaine-related charges. Now, if you're unfamiliar with how things work over in Japan, they take drug charges very seriously. Now, I know here in America, in most places, everyone tends to take drug charges seriously. But in Japan, it is very, very, very serious. Like it is against their culture, so to speak, to even really do these types of things, let alone get arrested for it. Because of everything that's happened over the past week, SEGA has halted the distribution of both physical and digital versions of the game that he recently starred in, which is Judge Eyes over in Japan, known as Judgment here in North America, which was set to release in June here in Western Shores. Square Enix, because just to show how serious this is, Square Enix is also removing him from the Japanese version of Kingdom Hearts 3, as he voiced Olaf in that game. And so it's already out. Like the game. Now, they don't have to do anything for the North American version of that because Olaf doesn't look like the actor, just used his voice in Japan. Here in the US, it was the actual voice actor from the movie Frozen. So they didn't have to do anything.
Josh Gad.
Yeah. So there are now concerns over the Western release of Judgment, as SEGA is currently deciding what should be done in terms of still releasing it here, delaying it until they can effectively remove him, or maybe just outright abandoning it altogether. I'm not sure. So I want to kind of discuss this entire ordeal for a minute, but keep in mind that the Japanese culture is so different from how we view things here, and not only in North America, but generally in the rest of the world. Japan's culture is very unique. So while we may think it's crazy to do that for an entire game, like for one person, to them, it's needed. It's very serious, and it's their cultural belief. So we can't fault them for that. I'm 50-50 on that, to be quite honest. I actually do think it's pretty much right to remove the guy. I think so too. I think so. Because the character looks like him identically. I mean, like that's the only issue. Because voice is easy. You can just reskin a character. I'm assuming. I am not a technical guy when it comes to making video games. No, I'm a player. Maker. I don't know how easy it is just to swap out like a character. They might be able to keep the mocap and stuff. You might be able to like keep all of the animation. You might be able to keep everything else, but then just kind of like add and they don't even have to change a lot, dude. They just need to change it so that it is not identical to his likeness. Give him a beard, shave his head. Yeah, just change a few separate things. Maybe, change the facial structure. To go with the easy stuff, the body shape, dude. There's only so many different types of body shapes out there. You have Frank Round, you have normal thin, you have
This is an audio podcast, Brian.
I wondered if you're gonna let that one slide or not. But they can do just the minimal amount. Like I said, they can leave the body shape and then just restructure the face, change the cheekbones, maybe make the nose bigger. Like you said, change the hair, add a beard. That's probably enough. But then they probably also have to do the animations for the face, because a lot of like the dialogue is going to match what he's saying. So that's going to be where some of I think that is probably going to be the hardest part. They're going to have to re-record all that. That's the part I agree with. I don't agree with removing the voice talent, though. He is the voice talent, though. But as Olaf, that doesn't make any sense. Olaf looks nothing like him. But it's his voice. So what? There's plenty of people who make good music who are criminals who I detest as people. Robert Kelly, for one, R. Kelly. Do I agree with what he did? Absolutely not. Horrible human being. Did he make great music? No. Yes.
I think he made great music. So now, knowing the context, maybe not the best choice of things. But
No, he did not make good music.
he was a prolific singer, and now you have to pretend like he doesn't exist.
Yeah, we do.
I guess.
My mind's telling me no. But my body, my body's telling me yeah. How can you not get down with that? Look,
I mean,
here's the deal.
The man made some funky jams. I mean, and like
He did. But we're missing something. R. Kelly in Japan.
He is not existent in Japan.
Yeah, not happening.
They've already canceled R. Kelly.
Japan, like Frank is getting at, is different. And one of the things that they're really different in is honor and representation. And you almost as a person have a brand in Japan, it seems.
Yep.
Like your family, if you do something to shame your family, everyone in your family's labeled. Like it is no joke. The only thing I can say is if they're willing to go through that to stick to their guns and their moral culture, I commend them for it. To them, association is condonement, right? So I don't even know if that's proper English. My composition teacher is probably spinning right now. To them, anything having to do with it is saying that you agree with it. Like me being on the podcast, maybe you guys might say something that I'm not super down with, but I'm not going to censor you. That's Western culture. If you say something like that in Japan, they're going to be like, oh, Frank said this on the podcast, so that means Sean is the exact same because he's there. He's watching it happen. So I agree with the studios. Take them out of the game. Do whatever you got to do. If you got to polish it more, then wait. We are big proponents of that here at Level Down Games. If it's not perfect and you want to make it perfect, by all means. And if this is something that they got to do that, I'm all for it. Because really, at the end of the day, if you can't be proud of the product you're putting out as content creators that we are, we wouldn't want to do it either.
Right.
We wouldn't want to release a crappy podcast for people. That's why we take our time to do it.
That's why we added Sean, so that way we don't have to rely on Frank so much.
I love Frank. Frank is near and dear to my heart.
You're slowly making me an atheist because I pray to God that Brian dies every night. And this happens.
I don't know. It's an interesting topic to talk about, though. It really is.
I don't like retroactive censorship, though.
It's true, but if you have the power to do it, it's probably good.
We want video games to be taken seriously as art forms. And I feel like you should not be able to go back and edit art. Same reason I don't like the fact that George Lucas went back and changed things in the films. I mean, art is art. Once it's out, it's out. It's no longer yours. It's ours.
True.
This right here now, this hasn't released. So I'm fine with it. I'm cool with the game. It's an unreleased game. There's a scandal. Let's get this guy out of there. Even though he really didn't, I personally don't think he did such a horrible crime. The guy has an addiction. It's not like he's selling drugs. Okay, he's doing drugs.
I think a lot of people tend to forget in the video game culture that when you drop a game, that every game that you cut and sell after that, even though it's the same game, it's not. You're putting out a continuous product. If you can change the product, it's the same as patching. Here at Level Down Games, we have old podcasts. I'm not on them. If there's something on the show that you guys like, it's art, you didn't like it, you just don't do it moving forward. That's how these guys are. They're cutting a game. They're going to put it out. Anything that they do moving forward has to distance themselves from this situation, and that's their way of doing it. That's fine.
Yeah, they're not confiscating the copies that are already out there.
Right. You bought it. You got it. It's there. It's out in the world. We're not shying away from it. But as a company, we don't endorse this. We don't endorse this person, and we're not going to promote him. So our way of doing that is putting him out of the game. Now,
you look at the terms of service of any major game. We don't own anything, dude. Even though we're buying those games, we don't own those games. We are just licensing those games from the studios.
Yeah,
I don't personally believe that. I don't subscribe to that. If I buy a physical copy of something, then I own that property. That's mine. You could slap words on something whatever you want, but if I buy something, I own it.
Well, you own the disc, but you're licensing the IP.
But you're licensing the IP, correct. You are buying that disc. You are not buying the IP. You're not buying the content that is on that disc, and the content that is on that disc is subject to change based on what the studios decide to do.
So here's a good example. You look at this and you think, wow, this is kind of silly, or wow, this is, a little inconsequential, or whatever the case may be. But we look at James Gunn here in the United States. In my opinion, did a lot worse in some areas with his debacle, and we can debate that all day long. But he's still getting credit on the newest Marvel Avengers poster because he worked on it before this all went down.
He actually just got reinstated for Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, there's just a huge, this is the point that I'm making, is that there's a huge contrast in culture here.
Absolutely.
That as Westerners, we're not going to understand. And it's just period. We have to respect it. We don't have to understand things to respect them. But we have so many good experiences with Japanese culture as Westerners from these games. Shenmue. You love Shenmue.
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
An Eastern game.
That is Japanese through and through, dude. From the way that the game plays, from the way that the locales and like just everything. It is like living. It is a Japanese life simulator. That is basically what it is. And it's so good.
And how many great reviews have you guys alone given it?
Yeah.
So, if you're going to accept the good, you accept the stuff that maybe you don't technically agree with too, as long as it's not disrespectful. You kind of look at it and go, it is what it is.
Oh, I totally get this, man. I totally understand why they're doing this. I mean, for Jessica, who watches Japanese dramas and, all these different types of soap operas over in Japan and animes left and right, I understand their culture. And I am totally down with their culture. It's actually my favorite culture in the world. I love Japanese culture. So I get what they're doing and I get why they're doing it. My only issue with this, I have no issue with them taking it out. I have no issue with them changing anything that's been released because the game is available in Japan. I have no issues with them changing anything. As long as the game still releases here in North America. I don't care if it's with somebody different. I don't care if it's a different actor, different voices, whatever.
Why should it not come out?
That would be my issue. Then I would import it. I would find an actual copy that someone is selling in Japan and actually import it. Because I want to play the game. I am a huge fan of Yakuza.
Against the wishes of the creator? How dare you?
No, because again, the game has been released.
I'm joking.
They're not confiscating anything, so that those copies are out there. But
is it only drugs they hold this hardline on, though?
No, it's most things.
Like if the person was convicted of murder, would they do the same thing?
Absolutely. Yep.
But it's okay for the characters in their games to commit murders.
Yeah, because it's not real. This is a real thing happening in real life.
It's hard because there are games out there that glorify Yakuza. There's games out there that glorify
Yakuza.
Here's the thing that I appreciate that Frank is saying, and maybe we're just not touching on it as much. And I believe it deserves just as much credence as what I'm coming from. The experience has now changed. The original experience that is supposed to be there, the original vision that we want to have as gamers is now changed. And I think Frank is a purist when it comes to that. I could be wrong. You can correct me, but you're resonating with me. You're saying things that make complete sense to me. I do feel with you. I do feel like when we change game experience, we lose those things that, were gifts, and it's sad to see them go, but they are just gifts. Like, we cannot sit here and control what's been given. We just need to accept and appreciate. But I agree with you, Frank. I do. It's sad to see. It really is. I guess the only loser in this case.
I agree with Brian. It's going to be Brian because he's not going to be able to play this game.
Well, no, because that takes us down a whole. That takes us down a whole nother topic for another day of censorship. Like, keeping the creator's original intent intact. That is a whole topic of censorship, because a lot of games, especially your anime type games, your games that have a lot of fan service in them, which Judgment does not. From my understanding, Judgment is not a fan servicey game, but there are, you look at the stuff coming out from sometimes NIS America or Idea Factory or Access. There's a lot of, they're localizing these games that are developed by studios over in Japan, like Compile Heart and Experience and, these smaller teams that tend to put a lot of fan services type stuff in their games. And that is just going into that area and that issue with censorship and, you know, keeping, when they localize it here, they change a lot of things. You know, they add steam to certain scenes that take place in like bathrooms or bathhouses to, construct your view of certain areas. And that's not the original team's intent. They wanted you to see everything. But in order to have it toned down for a Western audience so that it's not an AO game or that it's, that it's culturally appropriate to Western shores, they change things. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with artists' intent having to be changed due to cultural things, which takes us back to Sega. Yes, maybe the artist's intent that created Judge Eyes and Judgment, they wanted this particular actor to be there. Now that that's happened, can't happen anymore. Like that person cannot be there. So they have to change it, and they are changing it. And again, we're waiting to see what they're going to do with the Western release of Judgment. As long as it doesn't affect the release, I'm okay. And, I say that if I never get to play the game, I'm going to live. I'll live to see another day. I'll miss out on the experience of a Yakuza type of a game because I love the Yakuza franchise. I've played all the games 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 0. I've played them all. I'm a huge fan of Yakuza. This is an offshoot of the Yakuza franchise. It's like kind of like a new IP, but really still in that same franchise. So I know I would have loved this and I would have played the hell out of it. But if I never get to because of this, I'm okay with that too.
It's crazy though, man. It's not just the video games that are being censored too, because he's a member of a musical group called Denki Groove. Mm-hmm. And they're removing, like, there's a manhole cover decorated in Denki Group. The city removed that. They're scrubbing him from everything. Yeah.
They're a culture, like Sean said, they're a culture based on honor. Once you have ruined that perception of yourself, you are no longer a public figure. If you are, you're not.
It's like being the Amish, like he's being shunned.
He's being outcast. Yes, he is done.
Yeah. Wow. You guys said some things that really provoked some thoughts in my brain, though. There's a quote from Iron Man, and you guys are going to hate me for this, but Obadiah Stane, when he rips the freaking arc reactor out of Tony's chest, says, "You think just because you have an idea that it's yours?" This is really what video games are. Like, these people have these ideas, and then you have producers, and you have editors, and you have all these people that come in and mold it. So that's the part of me that is like for taking the character and the actor out of the game, because really we never truly see the intended vision out of games anyway. Same with movies, same with music. If you let a songwriter release a song, it would not sound the same as the finished product. I guarantee it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
You look at this as just another form of industry censorship or editing. And the only reason why it's getting attention from us is because we thought the product was finished and now they're changing it, and it sucks for some people, and that's the point of the conversation today, is just, I guess, trying to see it through their eyes and understanding it in a cultural sense. But yeah, I agree with you guys. I really do. I see both points. I see both views. They resonate with me. I appreciate them. I hope that in the future we can appreciate more of what the Japanese culture is in video games, because I think a lot of people miss out on that. And maybe that's the root of this conversation. There's so many good games that are rooted in Japanese culture and art and customs and different things that people may glance over because it doesn't connect with them over here in the West.
Thanks for checking out a new episode of Flavor Text. If you enjoyed what you just heard, be sure to click that subscribe button and turn notifications on, leave a like, and drop a comment down below. We'll see you next time.